I lay there still, my breathing soft, my eyes closed. To him, I was lost in dreams. But the truth is, I was wide awake. I wasn't sleeping, I was listening. Listening to words never meant for my ears. Listening to secrets whispered into the night. Listening to truths that carried more weight than silence could hold. It's strange, isn't it? How much people reveal when they believe no one is watching, no one is listening. That night, I discovered what the eyes could never see. I learned that the world is full of hidden longings, quiet fears, and unspoken desires. Kept in the dark because daylight might judge them too harshly. I stayed still, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to know. And what I heard changed everything. It wasn't about betrayal or love, it was deeper. It was about the shadows we carry inside, the ones we disguise with smiles and laughter when the sun is up. That night taught me something. Sometimes, the most powerful truths are spoken when we think no one else is awake. And sometimes, pretending gives us the power to see the world as it really is. So, remember this: people will show you who they truly are when they believe you are not looking. And if you listen closely, even in silence, you may hear the secret desires that shape their lives. Pretending is often seen as weakness, as a mask worn to hide from reality. But what if I told you that pretending can sometimes become the doorway to the truth? That night, when I lay still, feigning sleep, I realized something that most people overlook. In the quiet, when someone believes you are unaware, their guard falls away, masks slip, words spill out that were never meant to be heard. Every sigh, every hesitation, every whisper becomes an unfiltered fragment of who they really are. My body was still, but my mind was sharp, watching every movement in the dark, listening as though the silence itself was trying to speak. I discovered that sometimes you learn more by pretending not to see than by staring directly at the truth. There is power in stepping back, in disguising yourself as invisible. People show a different side when they think you are not present. They breathe out their secrets into the air like smoke, believing it will vanish without a witness. Yet in that moment of pretending, I became the witness. I became the quiet observer of what would otherwise be hidden forever. The rhythm of breathing, the trembling of words, the nervous shifting of hands, each became a language of its own. In that stillness, I heard things that no confrontation would have revealed. Because when you ask someone directly, they prepare their answers, they polish their lies, they tighten their masks. But when you pretend, you step into the shadow where their defenses collapse, and what is unspoken becomes louder than what is declared. I realized that pretending is not cowardice, it is strategy. It is a silent art that allows the truth to walk out unguarded. For a moment I was both absent and fully present. I was asleep in his eyes, yet awake in the reality he unknowingly revealed. Pretending granted me the chance to witness authenticity in its rawest form, the kind of authenticity that doesn't perform, doesn't filter, doesn't adjust for judgment. And once you have tasted that kind of truth, you cannot unhear it, you cannot unsee it. That night taught me that pretending can be a mirror, reflecting back the essence of what people try so hard to conceal. It is like watching a candle flicker in a dark room, soft, fragile, but undeniable. The flame was always there. But you can only see its true shape when you turn down the brightness of everything else. Pretending is that dimming of the world around you so the secret light finally becomes visible. And it made me wonder, how many truths slip past us in daily life simply because we are too eager to interrupt, too quick to respond, too desperate to demand answers. Sometimes you must step into the role of silence, play the part of ignorance, and let the truth unfold by itself. That night I was not asleep, I was awake in disguise. And in my pretending, I uncovered what could never have been told to me in the daylight. There is something about the night that loosens the grip people have on themselves. In the daylight, the world demands masks, carefully chosen words, practiced smiles, and the art of hiding behind what is acceptable. But when the night falls, when shadows spread across the room and silence replaces conversation, the truth begins to stir. It is as if the darkness itself gives permission for hidden desires to breathe. I noticed it in the smallest of ways, the tone of voice softening, the pause between words stretching longer, the way the body relaxes as though it no longer needs to hold everything in. Night has always been the keeper of secrets, and in its shelter, people dare to whisper what they could never speak under the judgment of the sun. That night, while pretending to sleep, I realized just how much power the dark holds. It creates a space where unspoken longings rise from beneath the surface. In the shadows, honesty does not roar, it leaks, slowly, gently, but with a force strong enough to change everything. A confession disguised as a murmur, a truth embedded in a sigh, a hidden yearning that escapes in the quiet of midnight. These are the things that the day would bury, but the night revives. The walls between what is felt and what is expressed weaken when no one is supposed to be listening. It is as if human beings trust the night more than they trust one another. What I heard in those hours was not meant for daylight. It was fragile, vulnerable, raw. It was the kind of truth that hides behind closed doors, the kind of desire that dares not see the sun, and it struck me how often people carry around worlds inside them, worlds too dangerous to reveal in full view, yet desperate to be known. Night becomes their stage, silence their audience, and whispers their performance. Some truths are not shouted. They are not even spoken clearly. They are breathed into the darkness, hoping no one catches them, yet secretly longing for someone to understand. The strange part is that these hidden desires are not always destructive. Sometimes they are dreams long abandoned, passions suffocated by routine, feelings that the daylight has convinced them are impossible. At night, though, those dreams return, testing the air again, hoping for a chance to live. And sometimes they are confessions of fear, the kind of fear people deny in the sun because strength is expected, but in the night, vulnerability feels safer. There is no audience, no spotlight, only the embrace of shadows that seem to whisper back, "It's okay, you can be real here." So as I lay there, breathing evenly, pretending to be lost in sleep, I realized that the night is not silent at all. It speaks, not in words, but in desires, in longings, in confessions too delicate for the day. And I, hidden behind the veil of sleep, was allowed to witness the side of humanity that only the darkness dares to reveal. There are moments when silence holds more weight than the loudest confrontation. The world teaches us to ask, to demand, to chase after answers, but silence has its own secret language. That night, as I lay still, pretending to sleep, I discovered just how powerful silence can be. Words are often chosen carefully, edited before they escape the lips, shaped into what others expect to hear. But silence does not ask for performance. Silence allows truth to escape in its purest form, unpolished, unguarded. By not speaking, by not reacting, I created space for something much greater than conversation. I created space for revelation. It struck me that if I had opened my eyes, if I had spoken even a single word, the moment would have shattered. Masks would have been pulled back into place, voices would have risen in defense, and the truth would have retreated into hiding. Silence gave me what questions never could. It allowed me to hear the tremble in the breath, the hesitation in the voice, the emotions that seeped through unguarded pauses. Every second of stillness revealed more than hours of interrogation ever could. Silence was no longer empty. It was overflowing. The world has convinced us that silence is weakness, that it means surrender, that it is passive. But I saw that silence is a weapon, sharp and precise, when used with intention. In that quiet, I was not powerless. I was the one holding all the power. Because silence does not provoke defense, it invites honesty. People grow uncomfortable with it. They fill the void with words they never planned to say, with feelings they thought were buried, with pieces of themselves they usually keep hidden. Silence makes them reveal themselves without realizing they are doing it. As the minutes passed, I understood that the human heart longs to be heard, even when it hides behind layers of strength and secrecy. When someone believes they are alone, when no voice challenges them, their inner world begins to pour out. It is in the pauses, the whispers, the fragments of sentences that the truth breathes. Silence gave me a front row seat to that unmasking. I did not interrupt, I did not push, I simply listened. And what came out in that stillness was more real, more raw, than any confession I could have extracted through force. In that moment, I realized the irony: silence, often underestimated, has the power to break open what sound cannot touch. Words can deceive, but silence exposes. And when you master the art of listening without demanding, when you learn to sit in that heavy stillness, you find out that people will reveal more than they ever intended. That night, my silence was not emptiness. It was the key. It opened the door to truths that would have stayed forever hidden in the noise of the day. When I closed my eyes and let my breathing fall into rhythm, it seemed as though I had surrendered to sleep, but in reality, it was the beginning of a different kind of awareness. Sight is powerful, yes, but it can also blind us to what is truly happening. We lean so heavily on our eyes that we forget how much the world speaks in sounds, in tones, in breaths that escape unnoticed. That night, with my eyelids shut tight, I became more awake than ever. I began to hear the world differently, as if the darkness sharpened every detail the light had hidden. With my vision muted, the smallest sounds took on new meaning. A shift in weight against the floor was no longer just a sound. It was hesitation. A pause in the middle of a sentence became more than silence. It was a confession trapped between fear and longing. Even the steady beat of breathing became a language of its own, a rhythm that told me more than words could ever hope to. My ears became eyes, drawing images from sound, painting pictures from vibrations in the air. Every whisper felt amplified, every unspoken thought seemed louder in the absence of sight. It was then I realized how often we miss the truth, Because we are too busy looking. Eyes can be deceived by gestures, distracted by appearances, or fooled by masks carefully crafted for display. But when you close your eyes, when you let the world grow dark, you begin to notice what cannot be disguised. The voice quivers when the heart is heavy. The breath stumbles when the mind is restless. The silence between words stretches wider when something is being hidden. None of this can be dressed up. None of it can be concealed when your ears are open and your eyes are shut. I discovered that sometimes to see clearly, you must first choose not to see at all. By pretending to sleep, I stripped away the distraction of sight and stepped into a deeper kind of perception. It felt almost as though the darkness itself was a teacher, urging me to listen with more than just my ears, to feel the unspoken weight in the air, to catch the delicate tremor of truth struggling to remain unvoiced. There is an intimacy in listening this way, a closeness that comes not from what you see, but from what you sense beneath the surface. That night, I learned that eyes can lie, but sound cannot. A smile can be forced, a look can be faked, but a voice breaking under pressure tells the story as it truly is. With my eyes closed, I finally understood that to uncover what is real, you must sometimes stop looking altogether. Only then can you begin to hear the secret world hidden in plain sight. Everyone carries a version of themselves that the world is never meant to see. By day, it is hidden behind the armor of routine, smiles carefully shaped, words measured, gestures rehearsed until they appear natural. But when the world grows quiet and the masks are no longer needed, that other self begins to stir. It is the shadow that follows us, the unspoken desires, the fears that never find language, the longings that feel too dangerous to expose. That night, as I pretended to sleep, I felt the presence of that shadow, self, more vividly than ever before. It was not loud, it was not obvious, but it was there, quietly leaking out through whispers and sighs, through pauses and unfinished words. What struck me was how heavy that hidden self seemed, as though it had been carried for years beneath the surface. People walk through life weighed down not only by responsibilities, but by the secrets they cannot share, by the truths they believe no one could ever accept. In daylight, they wear masks to keep that weight invisible, afraid of rejection, afraid of judgment, afraid of losing the love they cling to. But shadows cannot be erased. They wait patiently until the moment they can step forward. And in the dark of night, they often do. Listening that night, I realized the shadow self is not the enemy. It is the most honest part of who we are. It is the collection of all the pieces we silence for the sake of survival. It holds the desires we bury, the dreams we convince ourselves are impossible, the fears we try to laugh away, the emotions we swallow before anyone notices. And though we try to suppress it, the shadow always finds ways to express itself. Through restlessness, through mistakes, through sudden bursts of emotion that seem to come from nowhere. The shadow will not stay buried forever, it demands acknowledgement. With my eyes closed, I saw more clearly than ever before how fragile that balance truly is. Pretending to sleep, I became a silent witness to the war between the self that is shown to the world and the self that hides in darkness. Every hesitation was a sign of that battle, every uneven breath a reminder that no one ever fully escapes their shadow, and it made me wonder. How much of what we know about people is only half the story? How many lives are lived only on the surface, while the truth waits underneath, aching to be seen? That night taught me that the shadow self is not something to fear, but something to understand. It is not weakness, it is simply the truth stripped of performance. And perhaps the reason people guard it so fiercely is because it carries their deepest humanity, the parts that cannot be faked. To know someone's shadow is to know who they really are, and to see your own shadow is to finally meet yourself. There is a strange honesty in the words people never intend for others to hear. When someone believes they are unseen, when they feel the safety of solitude, their guard slips away. That is when the truth begins to bleed out, not in carefully chosen sentences, not in rehearsed confessions, but in fragments, half-formed and raw. That night, lying perfectly still, I understood this better than ever. The words that reached my ears were not meant for me, not meant for anyone. They were words born from the illusion of privacy, an unintended confession that revealed more than any deliberate admission could. It fascinated me how the absence of an audience makes people braver. When no one is watching, they dare to speak to the air, to the silence, to themselves. They let their fears surface, they whisper their longings, they confront their pain in a way daylight never allows. But because they believe no one else is listening, they do not soften their truths, they do not censor their words, they speak in the language of the soul, unguarded, unrefined, undeniable. And it is in those moments that you glimpse who they truly are. Had I asked directly, I know the answers would have been different. Faced with another pair of eyes, with the weight of being judged, the truth would have been buried again under layers of denial or carefully crafted lies. People are skilled at hiding when they know they are being observed. But in that moment of believing I was asleep, the shield was gone. Every word that slipped into the darkness carried the weight of authenticity. It was not a performance, it was not manipulation. It was the heart speaking to itself, unaware that anyone else might hear. What I learned that night is that unintended confessions carry a kind of purity that deliberate ones never can. They are not shaped for approval, they are not adjusted to avoid shame. They are echoes of what someone cannot hold in forever. And though they are fragile, though they are often whispered into the air with the hope they will vanish, they hold more power than any loud declaration made under the sun. Because the truth we do not mean to speak is often the truth that defines us most. I lay there listening, struck by the intimacy of it. To be entrusted with someone's intended confession is one thing, but to stumble upon the words they never planned to share, that is like finding the key to a locked room they never thought you would enter. It felt both like a gift and a burden, because once you know such truths, you cannot return them, you cannot unhear them. They change the way you see the person, the way you see yourself, even the way you see the world. That night, I realized that sometimes the most sacred revelations are not given. They escape, unguarded, in the spaces where someone thinks no one is listening. There is a kind of power in disguise, in wearing the mask of sleep while being fully awake inside. That night, as I kept my eyes shut and my breath steady, I realized I was not only pretending for him, I was pretending for the truth. My body was still, a figure lost in dreams, but my mind was sharp, my senses heightened. In that delicate balance between presence and absence, I found myself seeing more clearly than I ever had before. I was awake in disguise, and because of that, I was given access to a reality that would have remained hidden if I had revealed my awareness. It is strange to think how much of life depends on what people believe you know. When they are sure you are aware, they guard themselves, shaping their words, controlling their actions, editing every detail so nothing slips through. But when they are convinced you are asleep, when they believe you are blind to their world, they live unfiltered. They release their sighs without restraint, they speak their fears without caution, they expose their desires without even knowing it. It was in that fragile space of pretending that I became a silent witness, a hidden observer of truths that were never meant to be exposed. There is a thrill in that, but also a weight, because to pretend is to hold yourself back from breaking the illusion. Every fiber of me wanted to open my eyes, to confront, to question, to demand clarity. But I knew the moment I revealed myself, the door would slam shut, and whatever truth had slipped through would vanish. Pretending gave me patience, it forced me into stillness, and in that stillness, more was revealed than I could have gathered through any direct confrontation. It was as if I had stepped outside of myself, watching a world unfold that only existed because I remained hidden. Being awake in disguise is not about deception. It is about discovery. Sometimes the only way to understand someone is to remove yourself from their awareness, to fade into the background until they forget you are there. Only then do they show the sides of themselves they guard so carefully. Only then do you glimpse the vulnerability, the longing, the contradictions they carry. I realized that truth often resists being seen, but it does not resist being overheard. That night, I did not demand answers. I let them come to me. The experience left me with a quiet revelation. Sometimes you must play the part of the sleeper to awaken to reality. Sometimes the deepest truths are found not when you confront life head on, but when you step aside, disguise your awareness, and let the world reveal itself unguarded. I was awake, but no one knew it, and because of that, I was able to witness the kind of truth that only exists when someone believes no one else is listening. And so, that night became more than just a memory. It became a lesson that sometimes the greatest truths are not spoken to us directly, but revealed in silence, in shadows, in the fragile moments when people think no one is watching. I pretended to be asleep, but in that disguise, I woke up to a deeper reality. I saw the masks people wear, I heard the desires they bury, and I felt the weight of truths too delicate for daylight. What I learned is simple yet unforgettable. We live in a world where people long to be seen but are terrified of being exposed. We hide our shadows, we silence our desires, we guard our secrets, but the truth always finds its way out, and if you are patient enough, silent enough, awake enough in disguise, you will witness what lies beneath the surface of every soul. So, as I leave you with this story, I invite you to look beyond the obvious, to listen when the world is quiet, to pay attention when others believe you are not. Because in those moments, life will show you its rawest form, and people will reveal themselves without even knowing it. Thank you for walking through this journey with me, for giving your time, your attention, and your heart to these words. Until we meet again, keep listening beyond the silence, keep searching beneath the masks, and keep holding on to the truth that even in shadows, the soul speaks. Goodbye for now, and thank you.